you ever felt like you were meant for something more? Something bigger than you?
Hi, I'm David.
I'm Liz.
Michael.
And we are very fortunate today to have Michael Apted here with us. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you.
Michael co-directed Chasing Mavericks with Curtis Hanson, and we're here today to talk a little bit with you about the movie. Liz, why don't you take it away?
Okay, first of all, I just wanted to say thank you for coming. And as I've said many times to you before, I think you're the coolest.
She thinks you're the coolest.
I do. Do you have any connection to the ocean or to surfing, or how did you get into the zeitgeist of the film?
Because I'd done a couple of films for Fox Walden, who were producing the film. And so I'd done a Narnia film for them, and I'd done Amazing Grace for them. So they knew me. We'd worked together for some years. I liked the story a lot, and I was intrigued by surfing. I've always embraced scenarios or, atmospheres of films that I don't know, that, I'm learning something, and then I can pass that on to the audience. So that was a blank book. I'd always been intrigued by surfing. I thought it was unachievable. I can't see how anybody could ever stand up on a moving piece of wood on a moving sea. So that was interesting, but the story was good. It had some heart to it, some emotion to it, and I think I didn't just want it to be a film about surfing. I needed to have some pull for an audience and some interesting relationships and characters. And, once we began to sort through things as we were shooting, then, it became a very appealing project.
In terms of directing Jonny Weston, how did you connect to him?
Jonny was very well cast for it, and he was cast because he had what Jay has, Jay Moriarty, which was a kind of sweetness to him.
Those big eyes.
Yeah, so, I would reinforce that. I said, you don't have to act, you don't have to pretend to be Jay, you are Jay. But he was really good, and he really wanted to be good, and the relationship with him and Jerry was also good. In some ways it reflected the movie, there was the older man, the experienced actor, and the younger actor, the younger man, and so life and art were intertwined, as it were. But Jerry was very generous with him and kind to him, and there was something very appealing about Jonny. He could get away with anything.
A few things we need to establish before we begin. First, thou shalt not dang Frosty's board or damage thy neighbor's car.
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir.
Well, speaking of Jerry or Gerard Butler, how did he get involved, and how did he get involved specifically as exec producer?
Right, because this is a rather different movie for him, based at least on some of the past movies that he's done. It requires a huge amount of physicality in the water.
The film got made because he was interested in it. It clearly needed a leading man, and he's a tough guy, and he's a physical guy, he's an athlete, and he took some surfing lessons during the summer, but I think he realized that you don't learn to big wave surf in 20 minutes.
No.
But, he's very game, and he likes challenges, and as I said, he's very physical. So I think, that was, and I suspect the attraction to him was the same it was to me, that this was a whole new arena. There've been documentaries about big wave surfing, but never had big wave surfing been such the focus of a regular major motion picture. So I think he could see there was a freshness in the air there. There was something new for an audience to enjoy.
Now, clearly this movie was based on true life stories. Yeah. How much of it was a springboard from fiction versus the reality? I'm just curious to know how that came into play.
Well, I think there were so many people around who knew Jay. His wife was there, Frosty was there, the character Jerry plays. Right. So its springboard was clearly reality. But I think, they were all over us about making it as accurate as possible, and they were all over us about making the surfing accurate. They were fighting for the dignity of what they do, and, we listened to them, and I think we did the best we could, but it was really reality-driven, which is what made it much easier for me to come aboard, because Curtis had made the decision 2 years before that they were going to do it for real. They weren't going to go into CGI Central. No. They were going to actually put guys in the water and see what happened. They did tests on how to shoot it a year or so beforehand. And that's the way I would have done it. So, there was a documentary approach to it.
That's one of my favorite parts of the film, is the way the surfers specifically are shot when they're not in the water. They're exalted to these spiritual leaders, almost always shot in silhouettes, and it's really beautiful. And it made me a little curious, because I know Walden has a relationship in terms of more spiritual films these days, and this film has a spiritual element to it. Would you talk about that for a little bit?
No, you're right about Walden and, its value system, which is, to do with Christian subjects. And in some ways, that's something that I brought to it because, I was very impressed with these guys who were the world-class big wave surfers. They were great men, These guys were regular guys. These guys were humble guys. They were interested in other people. They don't make that much money doing it, so they're not rich guys.
No.
And I just thought they had tremendous presence and dignity. And what they do is unbelievable.
It requires enormous bravery.
Yeah.
My friend says that surfing in big waves literally was jumping off the roof of your house and then having the house chase you down the block.
And a big house, too.
And it's a big house.
Very good. And then hit you.
And then hit you, and then fall on you. Right.
Yeah, and so I was quite interested not in a narcissistic way, to build them up a bit, to give them a sense of, romance to them, that these were kind of icons.
I liked it. It's like this noble quest to surf these waves.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Michael, thank you so much for joining us here at Just Seen It. And as is tradition, we like to end with a cheers.
Cheers.
Chasing Mavericks.
Chasing Mavericks. Cheers.
It's good apple juice.
It is good apple juice.